You're like a ghost." Her sister's voice cut through the crowded coffee shop like a knife. Heads turned. Conversations paused. Alina felt the weight of strangers' eyes pressing against her skin. "I literally cannot remember the last time you hugged me," Sandra continued, louder than necessary. "Or touched anyone, or let anyone within 3 feet of you." Alina gripped her coffee cup, didn't respond. She'd learned years ago that responding only made it worse. 7 years, Ellie. Sandra leaned forward, her face twisted with frustration and something that might have been love. 7 years since David died. When are you going to start living again? The words landed like blows, each one precise, each one public. Alina felt the familiar stillness settling over her, the practiced calm she'd perfected over years of absorbing cruelty. She'd worn it when her mother-in-law said she should have tried harder to save David. She'd worn it when colleagues stopped inviting her to lunch because her grief made them uncomfortable. She'd worn it so often she'd forgotten what her face looked like without it. "I am living," Alina said quietly. "No, you're existing." Sandra's eyes filled with tears. "You go to work, you come home, you sit in that house surrounded by his things. You haven't redecorated, haven't dated. Haven't even gotten a pet because that would mean letting something alive into your world." "Sandra, when was the last time someone touched you, Ellie? Not accidentally, actually touched you?" Alina couldn't answer, because the answer was 7 years. 7 years since David's hand had gone limp in hers at the hospital. 7 years since she'd let another human being close enough to reach her. "That's what I thought." Sandra stood, grabbing her purse. "I can't do this anymore. I can't keep watching you disappear. Call me when you decide you want to be alive again." She walked out. The coffee shop slowly returned to normal. Conversations resumed. Eyes drifted away. Alina sat frozen, her coffee growing cold in her hands, her sister's words echoing in her skull. "When are you going to start living again?" She didn't have an answer. Across the room, a man with tired eyes had watched the whole thing. Caleb Price knew that look, the practiced stillness, the swallowed hurt, the way Alina's shoulders had gone rigid, then carefully, deliberately relaxed into something that looked like calm but wasn't. He'd worn that look himself, after Megan left, after the divorce papers arrived, after his daughter had asked why mommy didn't love them anymore and he'd had to find words for something that had no good explanation. His daughter tugged his sleeve now. "Daddy, that lady looks sad." "I know, sweetheart. Her sister was mean to her." "Yes, she was." "Should we do something?" Caleb looked at his daughter, 7 years old, still believed that kindness could fix things. Hadn't learned yet that most people walked past other people's pain because getting involved was complicated and messy and rarely rewarded. "I don't think she wants company right now, Lily. But she's crying." Caleb looked back at Alina. Lily was right. Tears were sliding down the woman's face, though she didn't seem to notice, didn't wipe them away, just sat there frozen like she'd forgotten how to move. "Maybe we could," Lily started. "Come on." Caleb stood, gathering their things. "We need to finish our shopping." But as they walked past Alina's table toward the door, something happened. The woman reached up to touch a necklace at her throat, a simple gold chain with a small pendant. Her fingers trembled against it, and then the clasp gave way. Caleb saw it before she did. The slide of metal, the whisper of chain, the necklace falling. He moved without thinking. His hand shot out, caught the necklace inches from the floor. The gold chain pooled in his palm, warm from her skin. Alina gasped. Their eyes met. Hers were red-rimmed and devastated. The eyes of someone who'd just been gutted in public and was trying desperately to hold the pieces together. His were tired but kind. The eyes of someone who understood exactly what that felt like. "I think this is yours," Caleb said quietly. Alina stared at the necklace in his hand, at the pendant catching the light, at this stranger who just saved the only thing she had left of her husband. "Thank you." Her voice was barely audible, rough from crying. "I don't know what I would have done if..." She couldn't finish. Caleb looked at the clasp. "It's broken," That's why it fell. I could fix it if you want. I'm good with small repairs. He waited, didn't push, didn't reach toward her, just waited for her to decide. Alina looked at the necklace, at this stranger with his worn flannel shirt and his curious daughter, at the kindness being offered without expectation. When was the last time someone touched you, Ellie? Maybe it was time to find out. Okay, she whispered. Okay, Caleb smiled. It transformed his whole face, chasing away the tiredness she now noticed around his eyes. I'm Caleb, he said, Caleb Price, and this is my daughter, Lily. Alina. Alina Vance. Nice to meet you, Alina. He gestured toward a bench near the coffee shop window. Let's see about this clasp. They walked there together, Lily skipping ahead, and Alina felt every step like she was crossing into foreign territory. She didn't know that this moment would change everything. She didn't know that this stranger would teach her how to feel again. She didn't know that 7 years of ice were about to start melting. All she knew was that, for the first time since David died, someone had reached for her. And she was too tired not to reach back. If this story is already touching something in you, I want you to subscribe to Story Buddy right now and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Trust me, you'll want to stay until the very end. Now let's continue. The bench was narrow. When they sat, their shoulders almost touched. Alina could smell him, something clean and simple. Soap, maybe. Laundry detergent. Nothing like the cologne David used to wear. Different. Entirely different. She didn't know why that made her feel safer. Caleb held out his hand and Alina placed the necklace in his palm. She watched him examine it, his fingers moving with surprising delicacy over the broken clasp. Simple fix, he said. The little hook that holds it closed is bent. I can probably bend it back with my fingernail, but it won't hold forever. You should take it to a jeweler for a proper repair. He worked as he talked, his thumbnail pressing against the tiny metal hook, easing it back into shape. Lily had found a display of pastries and was pressing her nose against the glass, counting the croissants. This is important to you, Caleb said. It wasn't a question. My husband gave it to me. Alina's voice was barely audible. He died 7 years ago. Caleb's hand stilled for just a moment. Then continued their work. I'm sorry, thank you. Silence stretched between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was the silence of two people who understood that some things didn't need filling with words. There. Caleb held up the necklace. It should hold for now. But please get it properly fixed. Something this important deserves to be secure. He held it out to her and Alina took it. Their fingers touched again. She didn't gasp this time, but she felt it. The warmth. The reality of another person. Would you? Alina stopped. This was insane. She didn't do this, didn't talk to strangers, didn't let people in. Would you put it on for me? She heard herself ask. The clasp is small and I can never quite manage it myself. Caleb studied her for a long moment. Something flickered in his expression. Recognition, maybe. Like he understood exactly what she was asking for. Of course, he said. Alina turned, presenting her back to him. She heard him move closer, felt the warmth of his presence behind her. Then his hands were there, on her neck, lifting her hair gently aside. Fingers working the clasp with the same careful precision he'd used to fix it. It took maybe 5 seconds, maybe less. But Alina felt every millisecond. The brush of his fingertips against her nape, the slight pressure as he secured the clasp. The whisper of breath as he leaned close to see what he was doing. When was the last time someone had touched her there? When was the last time anyone had been close enough to feel her pulse? There, Caleb said, stepping back. All secure. Alina turned to face him, and to her horror, her eyes were wet again. I'm sorry, she said quickly, blinking. I don't know why It's just been a long time since anyone. She couldn't finish. Couldn't explain that his simple act of kindness had cracked something open inside her, that the warmth of his hands had reminded her she was still alive, still capable of feeling, still human. Caleb didn't look uncomfortable, didn't look away. "You don't have to apologize," he said quietly. "I understand more than you know." Something about the certainty in his voice made Alina look at him more closely. He had the worn-down look of someone who'd been through his own battles. The kind of tiredness that lived in the shoulders and the eyes that came from carrying weight for so long you forgot what it felt like to set it down. Lily bounced back over, a cookie in her hand. "The lady at the counter gave me this for free," she announced. "She said I had a beautiful smile." "What do you say?" Caleb prompted. "Thank you," Lily called toward the counter. Then to Alina, "Are you feeling better? You were crying before." "I am feeling better," Alina said. "Thank you for asking." "Good, crying is sad, but sometimes it helps." "That's what Daddy says." Lily took a bite of her cookie. "Daddy cries sometimes too, but he thinks I don't notice." "Lily," Caleb's voice was gentle but warning. "What? It's true." Alina found herself smiling despite everything. "Your daddy sounds like a very smart man." "He is. He can fix anything. He fixed your necklace, right?" "He did. See." Lily nodded as if this settled the matter entirely. "Daddy's the best at fixing things." Caleb pulled out a crumpled receipt and a pen from his pocket. He scribbled something on the back and handed it to Alina. "This is my number. If the class breaks again, call me, or if you just—" He paused, choosing words carefully. "If you ever want company, I know what it's like to be alone. Sometimes having someone nearby helps even if you don't talk." Alina took the receipt with numb fingers. "Why?" she asked. "Why would you do this for a stranger?" Caleb glanced at Lily, who was now trying to see if she could lick cookie crumbs off her own nose. "Because I saw what happened with your sister. And I know what it's like when people tell you you're grieving wrong, like there's a timeline. Like you're supposed to be over it by now." His jaw tightened. "My wife left 3 years ago, just walked out. Everyone kept telling me I should be grateful that at least she didn't die, like that made it hurt less." Alina stared at him. "People are terrible at grief," she said. "They really are." Something passed between them, understanding, recognition, the shared knowledge of what it felt like to carry weight that others couldn't see. "I should go," Caleb said. "Lily has homework and I have a shift starting in a few hours." "A shift?" "I work 2 jobs. During the day I do maintenance at an apartment complex. Nights I stock shelves at a warehouse." He shrugged like it was nothing, but Alina could see the exhaustion carved into his features. "It's not glamorous, but it keeps the lights on." "That's impressive," Alina said. "Raising a daughter alone while working 2 jobs. It's not impressive, it's survival." Caleb smiled slightly. "But thank you." Lily finished her cookie and grabbed her father's hand. "Bye, Alina," she said brightly. "I hope you feel better, and I hope we see you again. You seem nice." "Thank you, Lily, you seem nice too." They walked toward the door. Caleb turned back once, caught Alina's eye and nodded. Then they were gone. Alina sat alone at the bench for a long time, the receipt crumpled in her hand, the necklace warm against her chest. Her sister's words still echoed in her skull. "When are you going to start living again?" Maybe, Alina thought, this was how it started, not with grand gestures, not with dramatic decisions, just with a stranger catching a falling necklace. Just with the warmth of human touch after 7 years of cold. Just with a phone number written on a receipt and an invitation to not be alone. Maybe living again started small. Maybe it started today. Alina didn't call the number. Not that week. Not the next. She told herself she was being sensible. He was a stranger. She didn't know anything about him except that he had kind eyes and a charming daughter and 2 jobs that left him exhausted. But she kept the receipt. Put it in the drawer of her nightstand, next to David's watch and the last card he'd ever given her. She told herself she wasn't going to use it. She was a terrible liar. 3 weeks after the coffee shop, Alina was back at the grocery store. Not because she needed groceries. Because it was Tuesday and Caleb had said he came on Tuesdays. She wandered the aisles, pretending to look at pasta sauce, at cereal, at things she had no intention of buying. And then she heard it. "Alina," Lily came barreling down the cereal aisle, her arms outstretched. Her face lit up like Christmas had come early. Before Alina could react, the little girl had wrapped herself around Alina's legs in a fierce hug. The contact was sudden, overwhelming. 7 years of carefully maintained distance shattered in an instant. Alina froze. Then slowly she reached down and placed a hand on Lily's head. "Hello, sweetheart. I knew we'd see you again. I told Daddy." "I said, Daddy, Alina's going to be at the store, and Daddy said I shouldn't get my hopes up, but I was right." Caleb appeared at the end of the aisle, pushing a cart, looking simultaneously amused and apologetic. "Lily, you can't just tackle people in grocery stores. But it's Alina. That doesn't make it okay." Lily released Alina's legs and looked up at her solemnly. "Sorry for tackling you, but I'm really happy to see you." "I'm happy to see you too," Alina said, and she meant it. Caleb walked closer, his eyes searching her face like he was checking to make sure she was okay. "How are you?" he asked. "Better." Alina touched the necklace automatically. "I took it to a jeweler like you suggested. They reinforced the clasp." "Good." "I'm glad." They stood there in the cereal aisle, neither quite knowing what to say next. Lily filled the silence with enthusiasm. "Alina, do you like cereal? I like the one with marshmallows, but Daddy says it has too much sugar. What's your favorite?" "I like the boring ones, I'm afraid." "Oatmeal mostly." Lily's face scrunched with distaste. "That's not cereal, that's punishment." Caleb laughed. "She's got opinions. I've noticed." "Have you eaten lunch?" Caleb asked. "There's a diner around the corner." "We were going to stop after shopping." "I don't want to intrude. Please come." Lily grabbed Alina's hand. "Please, please, please, you can tell us about your necklace. Daddy says it's special because your husband gave it to you." "I want to hear the story." Alina looked at Caleb, who shrugged slightly as if to say she's relentless. "Resistance is futile." "Okay," Alina heard herself say. "Lunch sounds nice." Lily cheered so loudly that an elderly woman 3 aisles over looked up in alarm. And something in Alina's chest, something that had been frozen for 7 years, cracked just a little more. The diner was called Rosie's, and it looked like it hadn't been updated since 1985. Red vinyl booths, formica tables, a jukebox in the corner that still played songs for a quarter. Grease stains on the ceiling from decades of fryer oil. The kind of place where the coffee was bad and the pie was excellent, and nobody judged you for crying into your eggs. Alina loved it. Had loved it since David used to bring her here on Sunday mornings for pancakes and comfortable silence. She hadn't been back since he died. Walking through the door felt like trespassing on her own memories. They slid into a booth, Lily next to Caleb, Alina across from them. A waitress who looked like she'd been working there since before Alina was born took their orders without writing anything down. Chicken nuggets for the little one, turkey club for him, grilled cheese for her. 3 waters. When the waitress left, Lily immediately started coloring on the paper placemat with crayons the restaurant provided. Her brow furrowed with concentration as she worked on what appeared to be a purple dinosaur. "This place is nice," Caleb said, looking around. "Old school, my husband and I used to come here." Alina touched the necklace again. "A habit now. Before," Caleb nodded slowly. "That must be hard, being here without him." "I didn't think I could. This is the first time since," she trailed off, then laughed without humor. "First time in 7 years. Seems like I'm doing a lot of things for the first time in 7 years lately. Is that good? I don't know yet." Alina met his eyes. "Ask me again when I figure it out." Their food arrived, and for a while they just ate. Lily demolished her chicken nuggets with the single-minded focus of a hungry child. Caleb ate slowly, like he was savoring every bite. Alina picked at her grilled cheese, more interested in watching them than eating. There was something about the way they moved together, father and daughter. A rhythm developed over years of just the two of them. He anticipated her needs before she asked. She finished his sentences without thinking. They were a unit, complete. It made Alina's chest ache. Tell me about Lily's mother, she said finally, if you don't mind. Caleb set down his sandwich, glanced at Lily, who was absorbed in coloring a dinosaur purple. Her name was Megan. He spoke quietly, making sure Lily couldn't hear. We met in college, married too young, had Lily before we were really ready. She stayed for 4 years. Then one day she said she couldn't do it anymore. Said she loved Lily but not enough to stay. Said being a mother was killing her and she had to leave to survive. She just left a note, took one suitcase. I haven't heard from her since. Caleb's jaw tightened. Lily was 4. She remembers her, but the memories are fading. I don't know if that's better or worse. Alina thought about David, about how fiercely she held on to every memory, terrified of forgetting. I think, she said slowly, that there's no better or worse. There's just different kinds of hard. Caleb looked at her with something like gratitude. That's exactly it. Everyone wants to rank pain. Tell you that at least you have this, at least you don't have that. Like there's a hierarchy of suffering and you should be grateful you're not at the bottom. But pain is pain, Alina said. Pain is pain. They sat in understanding silence while Lily finished her dinosaur and started on a unicorn. What about you? Caleb asked. Tell me about your husband. Alina touched the necklace again. David. His name was David. We were married for 23 years. No children. We tried, but it never happened, and eventually we stopped trying and decided we were enough for each other. Were you enough? Yes. Alina's voice was fierce. We were everything. He was a high school English teacher. He read poetry to me every night before bed. Terrible poetry sometimes, but he loved it, and I loved watching him love it. She stopped, surprised by how much she'd said. She never talked about David, never told strangers about poetry or love or any of it. How did he die? Caleb asked gently. Cancer, pancreatic. By the time they found it, there was nothing to do. He was gone in 3 months. The words were simple, clinical. They didn't begin to capture the horror of watching someone you love disappear from the inside out. I'm sorry, Caleb said. Truly. It was 7 years ago. I should be. Alina's voice cracked. Better by now. Everyone says so. My mother-in-law calls every month to tell me David would want me to move on. My sister stages interventions in coffee shops. Even my doctor suggested I join a grief support group. But you haven't. No. Why not? Alina looked at him. This stranger who'd fixed her necklace in a coffee shop. This tired single father with his worn flannel shirt and his curious daughter. Because touching people hurt too much, she said, and moving on felt like forgetting, and dating seemed impossible when I couldn't even hug another human being without falling apart. She stopped, stared at her plate. I don't know why I'm telling you this, she whispered. Because I asked. Because I wanted to know. Caleb's voice was gentle. And maybe because sometimes it's easier to tell the truth to someone who has no expectations of you. Lily looked up from her coloring. Are you sad, Alina? Alina blinked at the child's directness. Sometimes, sweetheart. Yes, Daddy gets sad too, but I give him hugs and it helps. Lily slid out of the booth, walked around to Alina's side and wrapped her small arms around Alina's waist. There. Now you'll feel better. The contact was so sudden, so unexpected, so utterly devoid of agenda or expectation that Alina didn't have time to pull away. Didn't have time to freeze. She just felt it. The warmth, the weight. The simple, uncomplicated affection of a child who hadn't learned yet to be afraid of caring. When Lily pulled back, Alina was crying again. Did I hurt you? Lily asked, worried. No, sweetheart. Alina wiped her eyes. You helped. You helped more than you know. They finished lunch with lighter conversation. Lily told Alina about her favorite books and her teacher and the boy at school who kept stealing her crayons. Caleb told stories about his daughter's antics that made Alina laugh despite herself. When they finally left the diner, the afternoon sun was warm on Alina's face. Thank you, she said to Caleb, for lunch, for the company, for... She gestured vaguely, unable to articulate everything she meant. Same time next Tuesday, Caleb asked. Alina hesitated. This was the moment to pull back, to protect herself, to return to the safe, frozen isolation she'd built. Same time next Tuesday, she said instead. Caleb smiled, that real smile that transformed his whole face. I'll see you then, Alina. She watched them walk away, Lily skipping ahead, Caleb's hand gentle on her shoulder. Then she walked home through streets she'd walked 1,000 times but which suddenly looked different, brighter, more alive, like she was seeing them for the first time. They met every Tuesday. It became ritual, sacred. The one day each week Alina actually looked forward to. She started caring about her appearance again, fixed her hair, wore colors instead of the gray and black she'd been hiding in for years. Put on lipstick for the first time since David's funeral. Caleb noticed. Never said anything directly, but she caught him looking sometimes with an expression that made her pulse quicken. Lily noticed too. You look pretty today, she announced one Tuesday, 5 weeks into their arrangement. Thank you, sweetheart. Daddy thinks you're pretty too, he told Grandma on the phone. Caleb's face went red. Lily, we talked about private conversations. But it's a nice thing. Nice things should be shared, Alina laughed. A real laugh, deep and genuine and surprised out of her. She's got you there, she said to Caleb. He shook his head, but he was smiling. My daughter is going to be the death of me. Or the making of you, Alina said quietly. Something passed between them, something that felt like possibility. And now, if you're feeling what Alina's feeling, if this story is stirring something in you, I need you to hit that subscribe button for Story Buddy. Drop a comment and tell me about a time when a stranger's kindness changed your day. I read every single comment. Now let's continue. Week 6, Alina met Caleb's mother. Diane Price was a small woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. She'd driven 4 hours to surprise Lily for her birthday and found Alina sitting in Caleb's cramped kitchen helping frost cupcakes. Who's this? Diane asked, her voice carefully neutral. This is Alina, Caleb said. She's a friend. Alina felt the word like a small wound, but what else could he say? A friend, Diane repeated. That's nice. How did you meet? Daddy caught her necklace, Lily supplied helpfully. And then he touched her neck and she cried. The silence that followed was deafening. I fixed her necklace clasp, Caleb said quickly. It fell in a coffee shop. And she cried. Happy tears, Alina said. It was a meaningful necklace. My late husband gave it to me. Diane's expression softened slightly at the word late. I'm sorry for your loss. Thank you. It was 7 years ago. That's recent, Diane said. In grief years, that's barely a blink. Alina stared at her. You understand. I lost my husband 15 years ago. Some days it feels like yesterday. Some days it feels like another life. They looked at each other with the recognition of two people who'd walked the same terrible road. I'm glad Caleb has a friend, Diane said finally. He's been alone too long. Mom, Caleb warned. What? It's true. That woman left and you closed yourself off. It's good to see you opening up again. She turned to Alina. Stay for dinner. I want to know more about you. It wasn't a request. Alina stayed. Dinner was loud and chaotic and full of laughter. Diane told embarrassing stories about Caleb's childhood. Lily performed a dance she'd learned at school. Caleb burned the garlic bread and blamed it on being distracted. Alina couldn't remember the last time she'd felt so alive. After dinner, while Caleb was putting Lily to bed, Diane cornered Alina in the kitchen. He's been hurt, she said bluntly. Megan destroyed something in him. I know. Do you have intentions toward my son? Alina blinked at the directness. I don't know, she admitted. I don't know what I'm capable of anymore. Fair enough. Diane nodded. Just don't hurt him. He's not as strong as he pretends to be. Neither am I. Diane studied her for a long moment. Then maybe you can be weak together. Sometimes that's stronger than being strong alone. She patted Alina's arm and went to say goodnight to Lily. Alina stood in the kitchen, Diane's words echoing in her head. Weak together. It sounded terrifying. It sounded like exactly what she needed. Week 8, Lily got sick, not seriously. Just a cold that turned into a fever that turned into a little girl crying for comfort at 2 a.m. Caleb texted Alina at 2:17. Sorry to bother you. Lily's sick. She's asking for you. I don't know why I'm telling you this. Ignore me. Go back to sleep. Alina was in her car before she finished reading. She arrived at Caleb's apartment at 2:35, still in her pajamas with a coat thrown over them. Caleb opened the door looking exhausted and surprised. You came. Of course I came. It's the middle of the night, and Lily's sick. Where is she? He led her to Lily's room where the little girl was curled up in bed, flushed and miserable. Alina, Lily's voice was a croak. You came. I heard you weren't feeling well. Alina sat on the edge of the bed. What hurts, sweetheart? Everything. That's the worst kind of sick, but you know what helps? What? Stories. When I was little, my mother used to tell me stories when I was sick. Would you like one? Lily nodded weakly. Alina looked at Caleb, who was standing in the doorway with an expression she couldn't read. You don't have to, he said quietly. I want to. She spent the next hour making up a story about a brave princess who fought dragons with kindness instead of swords. Lily fell asleep halfway through, but Alina finished anyway, her voice soft in the dim room. When she finally stood, her back aching from the awkward position, Caleb was still in the doorway. Thank you, he whispered. She's easy to love, Alina whispered back. Something flickered in Caleb's eyes. So are you, Alina's breath caught. They stood there in the doorway of Lily's room, close enough to touch, the weight of unspoken words hanging between them. I should go, Alina said. You could stay. Caleb's voice was rough. I have a couch. You shouldn't drive when you're this tired. Caleb, just sleep. Nothing else. He ran a hand through his hair. I don't want you to leave. Alina looked at him. At this man who fixed necklaces and burned garlic bread and loved his daughter with everything he had. She thought about David, about the 7 years of solitude, about the frozen heart that was slowly, terrifyingly starting to thaw. Okay, she said. I'll stay. Caleb's face transformed with relief and something else, something that looked like hope. He got her blankets and a pillow. Made her tea even though she said she didn't need any. Fussed over her comfort until she laughed and told him to go to bed. But after he left, after the apartment went quiet, Alina lay on the couch in the darkness and listened to the unfamiliar sounds of someone else's home. The creak of floors. The hum of the refrigerator. The soft sound of Caleb's breathing from the bedroom down the hall. It should have felt strange. Instead, it felt like something she'd been missing without knowing it. Safety. Belonging. Home. She fell asleep with tears on her cheeks, but they weren't sad tears. They were the tears of something thawing, something coming back to life. Week 10, Alina's mother-in-law called. Patricia Vance was David's mother, and she had never quite forgiven Alina for surviving when her son hadn't. I heard you're seeing someone, Patricia said without preamble. Alina's stomach dropped. How did you? Martha from church saw you at a restaurant with a man and a child. She said you were laughing. The accusation in Patricia's voice was unmistakable. I've made a friend, Alina said carefully. He has a daughter, a friend. Patricia's voice dripped with skepticism. David's only been gone 7 years. 7 years is a long time. Is it? Because I still cry every day. I still set a place for him at Thanksgiving. I still can't bear to change anything in his old room. And you're out having lunch with strangers. He's not a stranger anymore. Silence. Then, cold and final, David would be so disappointed. The words hit Alina like a slap. No, she said. Her voice shook, but she kept going. He wouldn't be. David made me promise at the end. Made me promise not to spend the rest of my life alone. He didn't mean this. He meant exactly this. He meant living, Patricia, not just existing. Living. You're betraying his memory. I'm honoring it. Alina's voice cracked but held. David wanted me to be happy. He said it every day in the hospital. He said, find someone, Ellie. Don't let me be the end of your story. More silence. I can't accept this, Patricia said finally. I can't watch you replace my son. I'm not replacing him. I could never replace him. But I'm not going to apologize for wanting to live. She hung up before Patricia could respond. Then she sat in her kitchen and sobbed, not because Patricia was right, because for the first time, Alina knew with absolute certainty that Patricia was wrong. Caleb found her like that. He'd come over to return a book Lily had borrowed, let himself in with the key Alina had given him 2 weeks ago. Alina, he rushed to her side. What happened? Are you okay? Alina looked up at him through tears. Hold me, she said. Please just hold me. Caleb didn't hesitate. Didn't ask questions. Just pulled her into his arms and held her while she cried. They stayed like that for a long time. Alina pressed against his chest, his arms solid and warm around her, his heart beating steady against her ear. When the tears finally stopped, she pulled back just enough to look at him. David's mother called, she said. She thinks I'm betraying his memory by being with you. Are you? Caleb asked carefully. With me? Alina touched his face, felt the stubble beneath her fingers, the warmth of his skin. Yes, she whispered. I think I am, Caleb's breath caught. Alina, I know it's complicated. I know we both have damage. I know there's a child involved and history and grief and 1,000 reasons why this is terrifying. She took a breath. But I don't want to be frozen anymore. I don't want to spend another 7 years untouched. I want to feel things again, even if it hurts. I want to try. Are you sure? Caleb's voice was rough. Because I can't do casual, not with Lily in the picture. If we do this, it has to be real. I don't know how to do casual, Alina admitted. I was married for 23 years. I only know how to do all in. Then we do all in together. Caleb touched her face, mirroring her gesture. One day at a time. One day at a time, Alina agreed. And then he kissed her, soft, careful, like she was something precious that might break. Alina kissed him back. And somewhere in that kiss, 7 years of ice began to crack. The weeks that followed were a blur of firsts. First time holding hands in public. First time introducing Caleb to her sister as boyfriend, not friend. First time staying over at his apartment and waking up to Lily jumping on the bed demanding pancakes. First time feeling alive in 7 years. But it wasn't all easy. Alina still had nightmares. Still reached for David in her sleep. Still sometimes cried for no reason except that grief didn't follow a schedule. Caleb still struggled with money. Still worked 2 jobs. Still carried the weight of Megan's abandonment like a stone in his chest. And Lily still asked questions that had no good answers. Is Alina going to be my new mommy? Caleb looked at Alina, uncertain how to respond. Alina crouched down to Lily's level. I'm not trying to be your mommy, sweetheart. You have a mommy, she's just not here right now. But she left. I know, and that's very sad. But that doesn't mean you need a new one. It just means you have more people who love you. Your daddy, your grandma, me. Lily considered this. So you're like a bonus person. Alina laughed despite the heaviness of the moment. Yes, sweetheart, I'm a bonus person. If you want me to be. Lily threw her arms around Alina's neck. I want you to be, she said. You're the best bonus person ever. Alina held her tight and met Caleb's eyes over Lily's shoulder. He was crying silently, but he was smiling. Month 4, everything almost fell apart. Lily's school called Caleb in for a meeting. Learning difficulties, attention problems, testing recommended. The specialist costs would be thousands of dollars. Money Caleb didn't have. Alina found him sitting in his kitchen at 11 p.m., staring at a pile of bills, looking defeated. I can help, she said. No, Caleb, I said no. His voice was harsh. Then softer, I'm sorry, I can't take your money, Alina. It would change everything. How would it change everything? Because I'd owe you. And then I'd resent you. And then we'd fall apart. He rubbed his face. I've seen it happen. Money destroys relationships. Not always, often enough. Alina sat down across from him. What if it wasn't my money, she asked. What if I found another way? What other way? Let me look into it. There are programs, assistance options, things most people don't know about. Caleb looked at her with exhaustion and desperation. Why would you do that? Why do you keep helping us? Because I love you, Alina said simply. And I love Lily. And this is what love does. It shows up. It fights. It finds a way. Caleb's face crumpled. I love you too, he whispered. I've been too scared to say it. Too scared that saying it would make it real and then I'd lose you. You're not going to lose me. Everyone leaves. I'm not everyone. She moved around the table and pulled him into her arms. Held him while he cried, the way he'd held her so many times. We're going to figure this out, she murmured. Together, one day at a time. One day at a time, he repeated, and they did. Alina spent 2 weeks researching, made phone calls, filled out applications, called in favors from former colleagues who knew how to navigate bureaucracy. In the end, they found a program, a nonprofit that provided educational assessments for children whose families couldn't afford them. The wait list was long, but Alina wrote a letter that got Lily moved up. 3 months later, Lily was diagnosed with ADHD and dyslexia. The school created an individualized education plan. A tutor was provided at no cost. And Lily, for the first time in her young life, started thriving instead of struggling. You saved her, Caleb said one night, watching Lily do homework with actual enthusiasm. You saved both of us. We saved each other, Alina corrected. That's how this works. Month 6, Alina made a decision. She invited Patricia to lunch. They met at Rosie's, neutral ground. David's memory hovering over both of them like a third presence at the table. Neither spoke much until the food arrived. I owe you an apology, Patricia said finally. Her voice was stiff, like the words cost her something. What I said on the phone was cruel. It was, Alina agreed. But I understand why you said it. You do, you're his mother. You don't get to move on. You're stuck with the grief forever while everyone else gets to keep living. Patricia's eyes filled with tears. I just miss him so much. I miss him too. Every day. Alina reached across the table and took Patricia's hand. But missing him doesn't mean I have to stop living, and loving someone else doesn't mean I've forgotten him. I know, logically I know that. Patricia wiped her eyes. Tell me about this man. The one you're seeing. So Alina told her about the coffee shop, the necklace, the diner lunches that turned into something more. He sounds kind, Patricia said when she finished. He is. He reminds me of David in some ways, not specifically, but the kindness, the steadiness. The way he loves his daughter. Patricia was quiet for a long moment. David would have liked him, she said finally. You think so? I think David would have liked anyone who makes you happy. He loved you so much. Patricia's voice broke. He would be glad you're not alone. Thank you. Alina squeezed her hand. That means more than you know. Can I meet him? Patricia asked. And the little girl, Alina smiled. I'd like that. Month 8, Caleb proposed, not with a ring, not with a grand gesture. They were washing dishes. Side by side, not talking. He handed her a plate, she dried it. And then he said quietly, almost casually, marry me. Alina froze. What? Marry me, Caleb repeated. He turned to face her, dish soap still on his hands. I don't have a ring, I don't have money. I don't have anything to offer except myself, and Lily and this life we're building together. But I love you, and I want to spend whatever time I have left loving you. Alina set down the plate. Yes, she said. Yes, yes. They kissed in the kitchen, soap bubbles floating between them, Lily's homework spread across the dining room table. It wasn't a fairy tale. It wasn't perfect. But it was real. And real was exactly what Alina needed. They got married on a Tuesday, because Tuesday was their day. The day they met. The day they had lunch. The day everything changed. The ceremony was small, just family. Patricia came. Diane came. Sandra came, crying the entire time. Lily was the flower girl, scattering rose petals with the seriousness of someone performing brain surgery. They exchanged vows they'd written themselves. Caleb went first. Alina, I was broken when I met you. I'd convinced myself that being alone was safer than risking hurt again, that if I didn't let anyone in, I couldn't be abandoned. He took her hands. Then you walked into a coffee shop with a broken necklace and changed everything. You showed me that love isn't about being safe. It's about being brave enough to try anyway. Brave enough to reach out even when you might be rejected. Brave enough to say yes to someone who's terrified of no. His voice cracked. I promise to keep reaching for you every day, even when I'm scared, especially when I'm scared. Alina squeezed his hands. Caleb, 7 years ago I stopped living. I told myself I was surviving, but I wasn't even doing that. I was just existing, frozen, invisible, untouched. She took a breath. Then you caught my necklace. You fixed a broken clasp. You touched my neck so gently, so carefully, like I was something precious. Her eyes filled with tears. And I remembered that I was alive, that I could feel, that there was still warmth in the world, and maybe, just maybe, I deserved to feel it. She looked at him with everything she had. I promised to keep thawing, to keep feeling, to keep reaching back when you reach for me. They kissed. Lily cheered. Patricia cried. And somewhere, somehow, Alina knew David was smiling. Not because she'd forgotten him, because she'd finally remembered how to live. Dear David, I'm writing this on what would have been our 25th anniversary. I'm sitting in a house you never saw, married to a man you never met, helping raise a daughter who isn't mine by blood. I know what you're thinking. You're probably laughing at me right now, wherever you are, telling me it took me long enough. Some days are still hard. Some nights I still reach for you across the bed before I remember. Some mornings the grief hits like a wave I didn't see coming. But I'm swimming now, David. Not drowning, swimming. Caleb is good. He's so good. He wears flannel shirts that remind me of the ones you used to wear camping. He burns garlic bread like you used to burn toast. He reads to Lily every night the way you read poetry to me. He knows about you, about us, about the 23 years we had and the lifetime we should have had. He doesn't try to compete with your memory. He just makes room for it. Lily calls me her bonus mom. She asked me once if I was sad that I never had kids of my own. I told her I wasn't sad anymore because I found her. Patricia came for Christmas. Can you believe it? She brought your baby photos and told Lily stories about you as a little boy. Lily was fascinated. She keeps asking when she can visit your grave. She wants to meet you. I'm going to take her next week. I'll bring flowers. I'll tell you about her, about the life I'm building, about how I finally learned that loving someone new doesn't mean loving you less. I'm happy, David, really happy. Not the desperate, grasping kind of happy that people perform when they're trying to convince themselves. The quiet kind. The kind that sits in your chest like a warm stone. Thank you for making me promise. Thank you for knowing I'd need permission. Thank you for loving me enough to let me go. I'll love you forever. That hasn't changed. It's just that now I love more people. There's more love, not less. I hope you're proud of me. I hope, wherever you are, you're smiling. Forever yours, Alina. She folded the letter and tucked it into the box where she kept David's things. From the kitchen came the smell of something burning. The pancakes. Lily's voice was a wail. Daddy, you ruined them again. They're not ruined, they're just extra crispy. That's what you always say. Alina walked to the kitchen doorway and leaned against the frame, watching them. Caleb stood at the stove, spatula in hand, looking at a pan of what appeared to be charcoal discs. Lily stood beside him on her step stool, hands on her hips, the picture of 7-year-old disappointment. Alina, Lily spotted her. Tell Daddy that burned pancakes aren't extra crispy. They're just burned. They're pretty burned, Alina agreed. Traitor, Caleb said, but he was smiling. Make new ones, Lily demanded. Alina, you supervise. Daddy can't be trusted. I made pancakes for years before you were born, Caleb protested. And they were probably all burned. Alina laughed, crossed to the stove, took the spatula from Caleb's hand. Let me, she said. You don't have to. I want to. Their eyes met, held. Caleb leaned down and kissed her forehead. "I love you," he murmured. "I love you too." She turned back to the stove. "Now let me save breakfast." Lily cheered, and life, messy, imperfect, beautifully chaotic life, continued. Not the life Alina had planned, not the life she'd imagined when David was alive, but a good life, a full life. A life with burnt pancakes and homework battles and a little girl who called her bonus mom. A life where she was touched every day, where she was seen, where she was loved. She thought about Sandra's words in that coffee shop a lifetime ago. "When are you going to start living again?" Alina smiled, flipping a perfect golden pancake onto Lily's plate. "Now," she thought. "Now. If this story moved you, I need you to do something right now. Subscribe to Story Buddy. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a story. And drop a comment telling me about a time when someone's small kindness changed your life. Because that's what this story is about. Not grand gestures, not fairy tale rescues. Just one person seeing another person, reaching out, fixing a broken clasp, saying "may I," when it would have been easier to walk away. Alina spent 7 years untouched, unseen, invisible, and then a stranger caught her necklace. That's all it took. One moment of kindness, one person willing to notice, one hand reaching out. You might be that person for someone else. Or you might be the one who needs someone to reach for you. Either way, remember this: it's never too late, you're never too old, you're never too broken. You're worth reaching for. Thank you for watching. Thank you for feeling. And remember, the smallest touch can change everything.